officially live. You gotta say hi to the people.
Hi, people.
What's going on, family? Come on in here, man. I see Uncle Ben is in the building. Let me make sure that tech is working. You know, I always got to do a tech check. So if you can both hear me and see me, by all means, let me know in the chat. Yeah, I'll take that. Yes. Tonight is one of them nights where we will be drinking. Wow. Yeah, so happy, man. Again, if y'all can hear me, see me, definitely let me know. Now, I know y'all may not be used to talking, but y'all got to get close to the mics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I kind of gave y'all those things there. Oh, man, let me make sure that we are here and can see everywhere for always. Got to check. Didn't have my son with me this evening to help, so we was doing everything bootleg tonight. All right,
Great, man.
all right. Well, family, this evening, as y'all know, it is going to be Tales from the Tax Side. That's why we are drinking, because taxes is taxing, so to speak. So we're going to go ahead, cue this intro, and get to some tales, and I'll introduce everybody once we come back. And there we are, right? It worked. Look at that.
Yeah, there we go.
So, real quick, I don't even know what I was getting ready to say. Look at that. I ain't even been drinking yet. Lost my train of thought. So, again, tonight, just relaxing. Want to take some time, share some interesting stories, because the 2020 tax season has been, what would we call it? Yeah, see, we can't even come up with a name for it, right? But I'm super excited to be joined here today by two awesome individuals, one of which I'm going to spend a little time talking about here, but let me introduce to you two of the greatest, Shannon Hall Tax, and Kevin, we call him Big Kev, in the building. So we have been doing and dealing with taxes for how long? How long have you been in the tax game for? About what?
Almost a decade now.
A decade, same year. And Kevin, you've been
Since '89.
wow. So
I know I look younger than that.
I mean, you look like you were born in '89. So
Appreciate that.
So any questions tonight? Make sure that y'all gear them up to care who is in the building. So you say we need to turn up the volume. I don't know if the volume can even be turned up to max everybody out and see. I know new, like I said, new equipment, new mics, new everything. So if we can't hear me, I do apologize up front. Maybe I yell into the mic. Maybe that'll help. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but we'll get through it, right?
Yeah, we will.
We will. All right. So before we begin our tales, I have to just publicly give a shout out to this young lady here, who is, I'm going to say, responsible for this, right? She is the catalyst, the reason why I started my own practice, because she basically kicked me in my behind to do so. Also, the reason I became an enrolled agent, because I fought hard against it. I really did not want to become an enrolled agent. I said no as much as possible, and yet and still, she teamed up with my wife. She teamed up with my old boss, and between the three of them, they weren't going to let me sleep until I took those tests, and I did, and so here I am. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I'm going to give you a clap. There it is, using those buttons. And tonight we are drinking and celebrating that we finished strong on a good tax season. So cheers to that.
Oh,
cheers.
Cheers, yes, cheers.
I was like, is it over yet?
A crazy tax season.
Very.
I'm supposed to drink that.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. And so we're just here to kind of share some tax tales from the tax side. And as they're sharing their amazing tales about people who come to them with perfect tax returns, balance sheets, profit and loss statements, and having everything right?
No.
That's what we're
Of
gonna
course,
talk about.
of course.
All right.
Yeah, everybody's always prepared.
I gotta say, so this tax season, the like metaphor that I came up with for it was it's like you're running a marathon because tax season's like a marathon. You're cramming it all in. You got to pace it out. But
Right.
you're gonna do it. You know the end is there. So you're running a marathon. You get to mile 18, and then they say, you know what? We're gonna add 26 more miles to this, but we're gonna put you on the people mover for 26 miles, and then we're gonna let you back off. 8 miles from the finish line, and then you get to run the rest of the way. That's what it felt like to me, because it was like they announced the extension and everything just stopped. And it was like 2 or 3 clients a week maybe would reach out, but then it got to be July 1st, and it was like everybody remembered taxes were a thing.
Yeah.
And they all just started calling.
They did, yeah.
And it was the craziest, because it was like you're like, I know it's coming,
Yeah.
but I don't know when. So you just like sit back and enjoy the people mover music.
Yeah, no, I think you warned them because you call them and say, hey, yeah, there's an extension, but don't call me until, don't call me on June 1st, and I called them on June 1st and said, hey, don't forget, we only got a month left, and then you're right. People come in all of a sudden, but that happens during the tax season anyway, right?
Yeah.
April, people come in and say, call you the last week and say, I almost forgot. Come on. And I get this is a totally difficult, a different situation. So
what, give me some interesting stories, guys. Who has the best one?
oh God, there's no.
Right,
I've been doing this a long time. I don't have any really interesting stories anymore. Let me see.
So let's talk about the LLC. How do y'all feel about it then?
Oh, good God. Good God.
Well,
Go ahead.
I actually have an LLC related story. So I acquired a bunch of new clients this year, and one of them, I was going through the return, I was looking through it, and I saw the Schedule C, this name, LLC. And I said, okay, cool. So you're a single member LLC, Oh, no, I'm a corporation. And I was like, are you sure about that? And then I was looking at the next page of the next Schedule C said something Inc. And I said, is this like you just called it Inc. because you wanted to sound fancy? Or as it turns out, nope, had filed a corporate entity, but it was on a Schedule C. So now we got to go back and walk back, see what happened. Fix it.
Yeah, the LLC on the Schedule C and a corporation.
Yep. And the LLC goes on a Schedule C.
Right, if you're a single member,
If
yeah.
you're a single member.
Yeah.
But also you got to ask yourself, like, why did you set up this entity? What was the point of doing this except to just pay whatever local tax you got to pay every year, register for the pleasure of having an entity that's registered in the state?
You would always have to ask people, why do you have an LLC? Who told you? And I think that's the thing. My friend said I could, I've heard the corporate credit thing several times. I can get corporate credit. I say, do you have a business? Is my first question. And usually they're like, I can get some, they don't have businesses. They've not, they don't engage in provide any service, and that's the interesting part. You started the LLC and you don't have a business.
Wow. Like just for the purpose.
They think that they can get tax breaks, right? Pay less in taxes. And I'm like, you have to have a business. The intention of that business is to make money.
Right.
And I don't know if people understand either whether you make money or not, you pay the $800.
Interesting.
Right.
But
So when your people come with you with an LLC, had they been sole proprietors prior?
Majority.
One of them? Okay.
90% of them, yeah.
And why would they want to be LLCs?
Because whoever they
are,
have told them that if you get an LLC, it'd be the best thing for you. Your business will be super. Like you said, you'll have access to huge lines of
Credit, yeah.
Right? You'll be able to go to the dealership and walk off with
Well, yeah.
the best deal because you're going to speak to the fleet manager. You
Right.
know? So many things that people hear about forming LLC.
And you hear that tax break concept, right?
Right.
So does the IRS, right? Now you've never had a business. Now you have a business, right? You're generating losses, right? And people don't realize it gets to the point where your losses are the limitation, turn into the limitation of what your earnings are, right? People think they can continue year in year and take $5,000 to $10,000 worth of losses on $1,200 worth of income, $500 worth of income, and that's not. The IRS will tell you it. What is it? 3 years they usually give you? Yeah. Excuse me, before they determine this is a hobby because you're not trying to make any money. And that's the thing. And then people say, I want to be protected. But single member LLCs can always be pierced.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you lose that protection that you allegedly think you want to have for this business that you just made up. Because I tell sole proprietor, and you lose control of the money. They don't realize that. LLC, that money's not yours anymore.
From that perspective.
Yeah. It's the LLC's money. You know what I'm saying? Sole proprietor, you can do whatever you want with your money. You can touch it. With an LLC, you gotta go through channels. You know what I mean? You can't just pay yourself. When you have an LLC, you got to figure out how to navigate, payroll taxes and things of that nature.
But they don't get that.
Yeah.
That's
because that money stops being yours, and that control.
Well, that's another thing. Talking about the money is so many people will come to us. They'll form corporations, and they never set up a business bank account.
Right.
And so they're commingling all of their personal and business assets. And one of the easiest ways to pierce a corporation is you
commingle, right?
Yeah. You don't have a business entity or a legal entity. You've
Right.
got, a piece of paper that says something.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest things. Anytime, if you're going to set up whatever entity, even if you're a sole proprietor and all you have is your social,
Right.
set up a
Set
separate
up
bank account and run all of your expenses through your bank account. Because even then, if you show up with like a shoebox full of receipts, you have a really easy way to put together your expenses.
Yeah. I tell people if they're going to sole proprietor, if they're going to do anything, get an EIN number, because do not expose your social to the world like that, because that is how you're identified, right? Because anytime you get paid from someone, they're going to either use your EIN number or your social, and it's going to be out there. And that kind of exposure can lead to the fraud that we try to avoid, So
Somebody says, can they get the money back? Right? Wanda says, can they get the money back that they started for the LLC?
if they did what now?
Can they get the money back from the LLC?
What money?
Whatever money they invested.
You talking about startup money?
I'm assuming so.
Yeah. I mean,
You could get to write it. You can write it off, but you can't really. You don't get any of those funds returned to you, right? In any manner, right? Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that one. So we're talking about the money they've invested in it, or what are we talking
I'm
about?
going to assume the money that's invested versus the money that's they just spent so far.
Right.
That's how we have some real audio issues. I have no what's going on with our mics here.
Okay.
So you keep talking, because they can
Okay.
hear you. It's me and
Right.
Shannon that's like having some issues here. So I'm
Okay.
not quite sure what is happening. Let me
You could-
check all equipment.
Well, here's the thing. You get your money back, I'm assuming, through your losses on your return, right? But dollar for dollar, whether you're going to get any of that money back, there's no guarantee, depending on what other income you have, right? And then what your offset is, because, I'm going to tell you now, people, you never get more than you put in. You know, unless you get EIC or any of those things, but you never get more than you give them. Right. Okay, and you know, you've heard stories where people, real estate agents have told people, your mortgage interest, you'll get that back. Right. Well, you don't. You don't get any of that money, you know. So your investment is in the fact that, unfortunately, you're investing in a business to lose money, to lower your taxable income. That's why people keep telling people to start businesses, to do this, so they can lower their taxable income, right?
Yeah, we were just talking about that, start a home-based business.
Yeah,
right. If I'll start a business and then I'll just take all my losses and pay no taxes.
Right, right.
So like you said, you got to make a profit at some point, or they're going to tell you.
You know, they mention Donald Trump very often, right? He has the LLCs where, yeah, those losses carry over, but that's a whole different situation. And, you know, I haven't seen his tax return, so I couldn't really say. And I didn't prepare his tax return, so I couldn't really say, you know.
I would love to, speaking of this, I got to say, this is one of my favorite things, is everyone wants to see the tax returns, right? And I would love to see
I would love to see them. But as a tax preparer, I would love to see them.
Yeah, but that's what I wonder is, like, release them. Would anybody really know what any of it means? That's a good question. Like, your average person, right? What are you going to do with it? You're going to, I see this carryover.
Yeah.
Like, it always cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because I probably wouldn't understand half of it. That's some high level.
Yeah, there are people. We know people.
We do know people.
Yeah, we know people.
We know the best people. Yeah. The greatest people.
The greatest. Yeah. And we know the best words. Anyway, so
well, Kevin,
I digress.
I don't know why. Like,
oh,
so have to share the
we'll share.
Yeah, no worries. I will share. I will share.
My mic ain't working. This mic ain't working. Kevin's mic is the only mic that's working. So
okay.
Cheers to that, right?
Yeah, cheers to that. You know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah.
We got a fallback.
Yeah. Kevin's mic's the only one that's working right now. I had to figure it out. So yeah, definitely.
I will say, so I want to tell this story because this is one of my favorite stories about, you can take losses for a long time and you can have terrible businesses if you do it right. So like my two favorites there was a couple, and I can't remember the name of this court case, but there was a couple and they decided they were going to become professional gamblers. Right. So they worked full-time still, but they were going to be laid off. They knew they were going to be laid off, so they decided we'll be professional gamblers. So every weekend, they would drive out to Vegas or Atlantic City or wherever it was they were going. Mm-hmm. They would leave Friday after work, gamble from when they got there, straight through until when they left, drive back. They just lost money. They did nothing but lose money gambling. And so the IRS, after a couple of years of this, said, all right, we think maybe this isn't what's happening. They went to tax court, and they said, look, no, we're doing this in a business-like way. They were playing numbers based on feng shui, I think.
Feng shui?
There was something. There was like a number system they were using.
Okay, a numerology kind of concept.
Something kind of, yeah. So they would only play like lucky machines and certain numbers and all these things. Right. And because they weren't doing anything fun, they weren't going to buffets or shows or any of these other things, the tax court said, you know what? Yeah, this is a business, and let them take all the losses.
As professional gamblers.
Yeah. Wow. But if they had been doing all those other things, if they didn't have a system for the way they were doing it, they wouldn't have been able to pull it off.
Okay. I need the mic on this. I'm going to put the mic my way because I'm confused. So what do you think the IRS allowed? Why? Because they had a system? Was that like the only difference that made them professional gamblers and they went on Schedule C and they was able to take a loss from that?
They were carrying it on in a business-like fashion. If something wasn't working, they would change what they were doing to try to get better results. All of the list of things that differentiate a business from a hobby,
Lord, the nine
they
profit
were
factors.
doing all of those things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a client who wants to become a professional gambler.
Look out.
That's sweet. Watch out. And he gambles. He gambles. He'll end up owing the IRS, and he'll go to the casino and get the money to pay them. He brought me a stack of W-2Gs, this guy, $400,000 in winnings. You know,
How much in losses, though?
$400,000. Well, that's okay. We can all share this mic.
Yeah, I mean, luckily it swings, right? And hopefully everybody can hear, if I project my voice into it, until I, but we're live now and everybody is. Nothing else we can really do about it.
You make it work?
Uncle Vint, thank you. He said that works, right? Because he's like, the sound is terrible, because.
Well, you set such a high standard.
I guess so,
expectations.
maybe, yeah. So now we're just swinging the mic back and forth. So we're.
Nobody lean forward when it's on its way.
Yeah, exactly. So yes. So let's talk about the expectation of tax prep. How it's never, I don't want to say never their fault, but somehow, some way, we didn't do something right.
Okay. I think it's not, you have to prepare your clients, right, for the expectation of owing. Because what we're trying to do is keep them from owing as much, right? And a lot of times, I don't make mistakes. So, no, but a lot of times, the mistake is the fact that we don't question them enough, right? We don't go in depth enough because they would have done something, that causes an issue later, right? And didn't report it, didn't know they should have reported it, that sort of thing. We have to prepare them to understand what they need to do, make them help us, help them, right? So it's on us. I mean, it's not our fault, right? But we need to prepare them because usually when that issue comes up, you take money out of your 401k, but you never brought the statement in because you say what they all say, I didn't get anything. Well, okay, that's cool. All right, so the next year, when you get ready to prepare the taxes, the first question you ask after you look at the W-2s, did you take any money out of your 401k? And I have had on occasions people say, I forgot, I did. I had a guy take money out last year for his daughter's wedding. I finished the tax return. I look up on Drake, and I still have that 1099 there, right? It's blank. I call him, and I say, did you take any money out this year? Man, let me check, because I'm not sure.
That's what I don't get. How are you not sure?
It depends on how your accounts work, right? How much money you really have, right? I mean, usually people that make a lot of money will go and take some money to do something, right? And forget about it because their paycheck is really enough. They did this, they had to do something specific, and they took the money out. And we're talking about 30, 40 grand, And he came back to me and said, oh, yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. I did take this money, right? Send me the 1099, And yes, of course, that changes your picture, your tax picture altogether. But the thing is, we have to prepare them. All the errors that are made are not, they're accountable to give us the stuff, but we have to prepare them to know what to bring, right? And so we take care of them. Then that's our job, right? Is to prepare them to get their taxes prepared.
Well, I think to that point, I think that the tax preparation process is sort of a collaborative event. Like I was telling one of my friends today, you know, when you do taxes with someone, it's like, look, I know the law, but you know your life. Right. And so we got to work together because I don't know what you did this year. I don't know, right? You can use it. You guys can all use that.
No, for sure.
But it's true because it's like, you know, things that happen, we can only know so much. And without information, there's only so much we can do. I had a new client, I was going through their prior year return, which you always have to do.
You have to.
Have to. So I'm going through this return and I said, hey, you know, you had a rental last year. Do you still have that rental? Oh, I totally forgot we Airbnb'd our house last year. Here you go. And it was another, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 worth of income to contend with. But, you know, people don't.
They don't remember, right.
They don't think about all of it.
When they leave the tax office, they've forgotten everything that's ever happened, right? Because they're on to the next moment, right? Which is why they come to us, so they don't have to remember everything. Right? They don't have to worry about it. They get it done, it's done, they're out, you know. But we have to prepare them. We really do have to. You know, I've had clients come and say, well, they didn't ask me these questions before. I said, and that's unfortunate, you know. True. Right? Because we all look at the form and see different things. See different areas where people are usually affected, right? In our experiences, right? So we ask those questions, you know. And sometimes we get some new stuff and it's like, Shannon, what the hell is this? What have we done? You know, which is why it's amazing to be able to collaborate with you guys. You know, a lot of times people quite often. I know you guys have been asked, "What do you think about H&R Block? How are you competing with them?" Right? Okay, you worked for them, so
I'm about to say that.
No, I wasn't asking for real. But you know, and I tell people I'm not competing with them.
Yeah.
You know, excuse me, that's a whole different thing, you know.
And there are some great preparers there, you know, but you kind of get what you get. And sometimes what you get is great.
Darling, I've known some people.
Keyword sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
No, I've known some people that walked into just mom and pop places and got what they got. You kind of look at it, you're like,
well, and that's the thing, you know, you get what you pay for. People, a lot of times, we were talking about this, someone will say, like, I got a guy who'll do this return with 6 rentals and 2 Schedule Cs and a bunch of stock sales and Bitcoin and stock units, and they'll do it for $150. And it's like, cool.
Yep. Kill it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Let me know how that works out for you. You can pay somebody $1,000 to do a bad return too, but a lot of times we have to value what we do. Right. And if we don't value what we do, how can they value what we do?
True. So what's the worst tax return you've seen so far?
The worst.
Okay. Got a return. Clients came in. They were filing separately. They were filing single, married couple. Right? Okay. I open up their return. First of all, I'm like, okay, this is not right. Okay. Open up a return, look at the Schedule A. On his return, there's $40,000 worth of medical on his return. He didn't come in a wheelchair, in a hospital bed, because that's what kind of stuff you need, you know.
$40,000, yeah.
$40,000, right? The tax preparer's address was his address. Right.
Wait, what?
The address on the return as his home address was the address of the tax preparer.
That's my favorite tax preparer, self-prepared.
You know. And it was, their name was on the bottom of the tax return. They signed it. You know. They signed them. Yep. And I looked at it, and the wife's was identical. Just craziness, right? And I said, you are going to be be audited. This is not, and they, but that's because people don't realize the IRS aren't playing with that money. It's ridiculous to have put people in jeopardy for a few $1,000s, and they charge them 10% of their refunds.
It's such short term thinking about it. Like
that was a culmination of $1,500 that they charged these people, and they didn't even know how much they were charged. I said, how much did they charge you? I don't know. They did it all in the,
Swing that mic this way. Swing that mic this way. Thank you. Because I got to say this, right? Because now we're talking about that, and that story reminds me, just to give like a little tip to the audience that's watching, my family here, you are responsible for your tax return.
Yes.
At the bottom of I'm about to say at the bottom of the screen, at the bottom of the tax return, it specifically says under penalty of perjury that it don't say nothing about the tax preparer. It says that you have agreed that you have reviewed this tax return and that you agree to everything that is on here. Once you sign that, you make yourself responsible. So just because you pay somebody to do something, y'all always say, you know me, trust but verify. Even if I do it, always double check to make sure that everything is what it should be. Because they coming after y'all, not us.
Yeah. Well, some of my clients, a lot of times people, they come to us because they don't want to deal with it. Right. But I make them look at it. Because they need to know. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, especially when we were working at Block, where you'd have people come in from other places and you'd look at a return, they'd come in, especially in the preseason when they're coming in with letters from the IRS, where I looked at one, I was like, wow, you've got this business on here. She said, I don't have a business. And I was like, well, you have a childcare business. And she said, I don't. And I was like, well, according to this, you do. And people, there's a lot of preparers, too, that I've seen that don't really want them to look at it. They're like, just trust me, I know what I'm doing. But like you say, you're signing it under penalty of perjury, saying that this is true and correct, is to the best of my knowledge. Mm. And so I will go through, you see their eyes glaze over, but I'm like, we're going through this thing, and you're going to, if you have a question, you ask me. Right. Because you need to know what's on here, and you need to feel good about it. And, Yeah.
I try to teach them the process. Ultimately, what we're, this is where we're starting, this is what we're trying to do. Right? Because they don't want to be bothered with it. I get that. I appreciate the fact that I am a luxury. Right?
Kevin's a luxury.
I know.
A luxury. Yeah, I hate you. Anyway, so no, but we are. People could use TurboTax and be done. Right?
Don't do it.
Not unless you know what you're doing.
Don't do it. Even if you do know what you're doing. Do it.
Yeah. So it's like we have to make sure they know everything. Yeah, I tell people, I go through it, I say, look, this is what you made. They're going to give you these deductions, or you have these deductions. This is what they're taxing you on. Here's your offset. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to get you to zero, but we want to make sure that this offset is more than they say you owe. Right? And we have to teach them. Like I said, we have to tell them what they need to bring, what they need to look out for. The fact that people don't look at their check stubs anymore is amazing. Do you know you didn't have any withholdings taken out? I didn't even know. Okay, right? You didn't know. So you went exempt and you didn't know you were getting all your money, right? And so, the only time we look at our check stub, if it's less than what we have, less than what we're expecting, or more than what we're expecting.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at all the
I have something to say now.
Well, we always lose train of thought, don't we? That happens.
Yeah.
Alcohol is involved and things like that. Yes.
Right. Yeah. This is the thing, because I know you're all about this. Like, don't give the government an interest-free loan. Don't let them keep your money for you and then give it back to you. Right. Everybody, like, people get this idea that's like, no, I got to get my refund. It's like, no, it's your money.
Yeah.
It's all your money, unless you're getting refundable credits or stuff like that. But otherwise, it's your money, right?
Right.
But you get these people. We all have these people where they'll come in, they'll say, you'll do their return, and they'll get a little bit back. And they'll say, well, I don't understand. My coworker got like 10 grand back.
Oh, that one, yeah.
And my response is always like, are you the exact same person? Because if not, you're not going to have the exact same taxes, no matter what. There's too many variables. There's too many things.
They always say, we make the same amount of money. We do the same thing, is what they say. And I said, didn't do your friend's taxes? Don't know what they put on there? You know, they could have lied about their refund. I don't know. I just don't know. You know, unless you bring your friend here with the refund, with your tax return, we can't tell.
Yeah. A friend of mine had her return. I did her return, and then she went somewhere else the next year and came back to me the following year. And the in-between year, somehow, she had written off all these expenses, business expenses. And I was like, girl, you're a waitress. What business expenses do you have? The 3 shirts you bought for $20? That's not going to make any difference. So I have no idea. And she didn't have the return to show me. So I have no idea what was on there. But
what expenses? How'd you know she?
Because she told me. She's like, oh, well, last year they told me I could write off all these business expenses. And I was like, girl, I know that you don't have any.
Yeah.
What?
Work shoes.
Yeah, but since the standard deduction's so high now, and you have to hit 2% and then $12,000, how many work shoes are you buying?
First of all, when it was $6,000, people weren't hitting that number. Right?
Yeah.
You know, because single earners, unless you're earning a lot of money and putting a lot in withholdings, you know, or giving, you know, that cash and non-cash contributions, if you don't own a home, you're not doing anything. You're not getting by that, you know. It's phenomenal what people do for money, or the lack thereof, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask the question. Well, I have the experts here. Because we were kind of talking about this, right? The idea of start the home-based business so you'll be able to write off more. And that's a big thing, right? Because I've been getting a lot of, a lot of people saying it. People have been, sharing videos with me that, hey, so-and-so said this. Does it work? Is it true? Is it possible? And I don't think it's possible, but I could be wrong. That's why I have the 2 experts here with me tonight, and I want to know, because one of the most recent questions I have is one person I think they earn, I think I said this with you, maybe they earn $175,000 a year, W-2, single, no dependents, and they were told to start a home-based business in order to write off more. And it would reduce their taxes. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't see it happening that way, because especially the form to what is it, the 8339 or something like that, or 59, the home based form that you use.
Yeah, the 80.
It's one of them, right?
The business use of home. 88.
Yeah, the
business
8829. Yeah, exactly.
People don't understand how that form affects your tax return, right? You can use that, but it will not take you to a loss. If those expenses are the expenses, they'll take you to zero. You'll never be able to get a loss if that's what you're using to drive your losses, right? You'll have, say you'll have a certain amount, you'll have a gain, right? And you put that 8829 in there, it will only take you to zero if those expenses are enough. So people don't understand is that when you use that, that's if you're at home working, right?
Right.
And or you have a gain. You legitimately have a business, right? And those expenses need to be included. But you're never going to get below zero using 8829 as a driver to a loss, right? So people have to understand that it will not take you below zero.
The other thing about the 8829 too that people don't think about is if you own your home, you've now taken your residence and you've turned it into business property. and you have to depreciate it.
Right.
And when you sell your house, you have to recapture that
Right.
depreciation. And this is a whole new thing you've done
Right.
so that you could get a
And
couple
based on the
$100 worth of
percentage,
deduction.
when you're doing that, are you affecting your Schedule A deduction? Because now you're splitting it
Right.
between your home, your business, and that Schedule A, deduction. So you have to think about how does that affect you. And it's terrible because we already have the 10% limitation on state and local taxes. So if you're making that less, right, and you're making your mortgage interest less, and and that's what people don't understand.
Here's the other thing, too, about people who want to take losses for business expenses, right? You have to spend that money.
Yeah, you do.
So say I want to start a home-based business. Say my taxes, let's just make easy numbers. Say I make $100,000 and I'm at a 20% effective rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not accurate, but say it is.
Right.
So for every dollar I don't spend, I pay 20 cents of tax, right? So say I want to try to reduce my tax down. So I'm going to start a business. I'm going to take a bunch of loss. I spend $5,000. I have reduced my tax now by, I spent $10,000 because that's easier. I've reduced my tax by $2,000, right? But I spent 10 grand to do it. I could have just paid the $2 grand in taxes and kept the other 8.
Right.
So
these aren't made up numbers. You're right.
Yeah, it's one of these things where it's like if you're actually spending this money on this home-based business, you're spending this money to create these losses for no reason at all. And this is the thing. I can't remember who I stole this from, but somebody, when people would complain about the tax they would have to pay, this person would say, I'll tell you what, maybe it was you. I don't know. I stole this from someone. They would say, I'll tell you what, you give me the money, I'll pay the taxes on it. And then we're good. I'll take it. Yeah. I'll pay the tax on it, and I'll keep the rest. Because I was talking to someone today. Someone bought a house for a couple $100,000 years and years ago. They're selling it now for $1 million. Right. So they're going to have a pretty big gain. Maybe they get their $250,000 exclusion. Mm-hmm. So they're looking at maybe $500,000 worth of gain or something. They're going to pay capital gains on that.
Right.
Awesome.
Right.
You just made $750,000 in profit on your house.
Right. Exactly.
That you now get to pay taxes on. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have money.
Yeah. Nobody likes to pay taxes, and I think we have to make it relative to services, right? Yeah. What am I getting for my money? People always say. I say, when there's a war, do they knock on your door? There are people that we pay to do that. There are services that we get that we kind of overlook. And that's the thing. And unfortunately, like it or not, like the president, like Congress, like whatever they're doing, we want to live the way we live. And this is what they say. And I always tell people the cost of freedom is high.
We got some questions here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Lord.
We're going to.
What's that?
My mic is still not working, so
they can still hear it, sir.
Swing the mic this way so I can be heard, right? So let me bring this question in. I just saw it. Y'all probably won't see it because it's going to flash across the screen here. But it says, can someone write off deductions for working from home for a company? That's the part that I'm really confused about.
Okay. You used to be able to on a 2106. If you are not being reimbursed by your company, right? The 2106 used to allow you to do that. But those expenses are not allowed unless you're in the military, you're a qualified performing artist, and one other thing I forget.
CPIs.
And I forget one other thing.
Certain government employees, notaries, I think, fall in there.
Right.
But the rules for that are
really strict. And if you're a performing artist, you have to have at least 2 W-2s that pay you for that.
At least $200 each. And your income has to be under.
Right.
Your gross, your AGI has to be less than like 15 grand.
Yeah. So it's not allowed anymore.
Right. But for California.
Right. But California is. So yes, we all still put that on there.
So it depends.
And that's if you can still get more than the standard deduction.
Yeah, you got to
get over that. Because the 2106 is connected to the Schedule A, right?
Okay. One what is the best resource for learning how to file quarterly taxes?
Call me.
Fair.
You could. The problem with that is, like all the IRS literature, it's convoluted. It's legalese, and you have to find a preparer, someone you trust, and and sit down and talk to them, explain your situation, and talk to them, because going to the IRS, it's unless you really know the language, it confuses me sometimes. I have to, I have to call and say, what is this really saying? So tell them to find someone they trust, a preparer, and get the information.
An additional resource, I totally support going to a preparer, but if you're, because a lot of preparers will charge for this kind of thing, I include it as part of my service. I maybe shouldn't do, but I do. But a lot of people will charge extra if it's a money issue. The IRS withholding calculator is actually really cool. Have you ever messed with it?
No.
If you go to the IRS website, they improved it a lot over time. But I use the IRS withholding estimator all the time. You go in, you input some basic information, and it will spit out either what you need to change your W-4 to or what your quarterly payments should be. So
now, was that for the old W-4 or that for that? This
they
W4?
updated it. They updated it for the new W-4.
Well, this new W-4,
Yeah, that I can't even.
Yeah,
I don't even.
I found that to be convoluted initially, so I'll have to go and look at it.
Yeah, it's like doing a tax return. But
Yeah,
if you're self-employed and you're trying to get an amount
Right.
to make a quarterly payment, the IRS withholding estimator is actually really useful for that. It's pretty user-friendly. Like I said, you just need some basic information. You punch it in, and it'll spit out a relatively accurate estimate for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I support finding somebody to help you out. But if it's an accessibility or a money thing.
I don't charge for that either. No.
We know who the saps are.
Yeah.
I don't charge.
Yeah.
I don't think.
You don't think?
I don't think.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember charging for that. Yeah, quarterly estimate.
No.
Because to me, it's like especially for the self-employed, I always say one, understand that quarterly estimates are an after the fact, right? Because I know a lot of people stress out thinking like, how am I going to figure out the biggest question I get is how do I know what to pay if I haven't earned it yet? And I'm like, well, that's the beauty of quarterly estimated tax, right? Because if you're doing it like the first quarter is January through March, yeah, because January, February, March.
The first quarter is April.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it's April 15th. The last quarter is January of the next year.
Last quarter is January. See, okay, so I probably been confusing people this whole time. So the first quarter, well, let's just say you're trying to figure out the last quarter, right? You'll go from January through March, take your total income minus your expenses, that's your net, and then you just figure out what your tax would be on that. So it's not like you're doing it ahead of time. You already know what you earned, you already know what you spent, and you figure it out from there. So yeah, I know I don't charge you because I tell them you can just do it yourself. This is how you figure it out, right?
Well, and also, it goes back to that thing of, we're in it together. It's a collaboration between us and our clients where it's like you don't want them to feel like they're on their own and they're struggling all year without you, so that they come in to see you in March or April or whenever it is, and it's like, oh my gosh, what did you do? We check in throughout the year because we're working together on it. We're both involved in trying to get a good result, and I think building that kind of trust and rapport and collaborative spirit.
All right, somebody says, say the name of it again. What? Miss Gimme Cornbread say, may you say the name of it again. What would the name of what? Go ahead and ask that question again, and we'll get that. All right. Oh, man, we got some good news. Let me put this out here. Mr. Digital Life, I know y'all probably missed the show last week, man. I had Mr. Digital Life came on here and blessed us with his amazing story. And he said that his DBA was finally approved today. Absolutely amazing. Can I give him a clap? I'm going to do some clapping sounds. I can tell by the sound that it's clapping. So I'm going to go ahead and say, congratulations. 45 days, though. Wow. Wow. I mean, I'm assuming, you think that's quick? That's
right
normally
now.
slow.
Right
Yeah, I think it's taken a long time right now.
Yeah, to do DBAs.
I filed one today. They said it would be 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah. Right. So that's quick, considering, you know, people are skeleton crews, basically, backlogged, you know, so. But that's cool. No, I think it takes, 10 days? Or
Yeah, you gotta come.
Oh, yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, you know, we got to swing you to the mic.
You gotta stay in the frame here.
Yeah. You got to, when you're talking, there you go.
Okay, no problem.
Let's see here. Oh, God, we only got 8 minutes left. Cool, because this is boy. Let me borrow the mic again.
There you go, sir.
Right, so my good friend John Phillips, Create Simple Meals, says, can we write a portion of that off? And I'm assuming this comment came into play when we were talking about the home-based business thing. And because he said he was going to ask that our jobs don't reimburse gas, lights, etc. And the home-based, well, is home-based business deductions for a W-2 employee is extremely different for a home-based business deduction for somebody who's self-employed. And I think the biggest issue is, especially if you're trying to be audit-proof, how do we know that these expenses aren't reimbursed and yet needed, right, for business? Because first of all, the employer, it has to be the convenience for the employer, or does it have to be convenience for the employee?
Well, also, it doesn't necessarily have to be reimbursed. It just has to be reimbursable.
Right.
So if they will reimburse you, but you don't take it, you don't get to deduct it.
Right.
Which you should take it because you get dollar for dollar.
It has to be in writing, either way.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be in writing either way.
Right,
whether they do it or not. But if they reimburse it, you can't deduct it. Because you could actually go get your money.
Yeah, which you should.
Yeah.
Because a dollar for dollar
believe that,
reimbursement is
yeah,
better
it's
than
better than
20 cents on a
yeah.
dollar tax deduction. But also, the thing about the business use of home that people don't really talk about as much as they should is the exclusive use part of it,
Right.
which is huge. Because if you have an area of your house, you use your kitchen table and you're trying to write that off as business use, if you sit down and eat a bowl of cereal there, it is no longer business use. It has to be exclusively for that. So if you have a separate room, if you have a dedicated area, it can be a corner of a studio apartment, but if you write a personal check there, you no longer have business exclusive use. Are they going to know? Probably not. But letter of the law says exclusively used for business. I'm kind of hoping that with everything that's been going on and so many people working from home, they'll maybe do something to offer some relief to people this year, but I doubt it.
Because they would have to implement that 2106 deal again. And because
I would put it above the line
so high,
for people this year.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. It's not going to happen, but I would love to see it.
That's funny.
For this, I know.
We know what you're going to. Here you go. No, it's interesting that.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a very, what's the word? Terrible question. I'm gonna put it out here. I'm gonna just send it. Somebody. What's wrong with you? And you know,
what's wrong with what?
The question is, what's wrong with using TurboTax? And I'm gonna be honest with you. This question is from one of my family members.
Okay.
Which makes them just as crazy, I guess. Yeah.
I'll tell you the biggest thing, straight up, is that you don't know how it got from here to there. You can't see the process in TurboTax.
Right.
It asks you questions and it spits out a result. And you don't know what happened between here and here. When we use our tax programs, also we kind of know what's supposed to look like.
Right.
And so if it's not there, we go back and figure out why.
Right. And if it's not working for you, right, if you make an error, there's no way to correct that. You're assuming that you have the knowledge to put, because you can read, you're using that bit of knowledge you have to input the information. And several times people have input things incorrectly in the wrong place because they assumed they thought that's what it said. There's nothing wrong with the program. It's how much knowledge do you really have about preparing taxes, And the thing is, we're not saying you cannot do it. But more than likely, if you have no prior experience or if you never read an actual tax book to write things manually to know, you never know where the stuff is going and whether it's correct. So that's the issue with it, is that it doesn't help you through it, right? It doesn't automatically correct. Say, no, that doesn't go there, because you can't ask it any questions. You know.
Ask the box.
Huh? Yeah.
Ask the box.
Well, and
That's
if you misunderstand one of the questions
Right.
and you all of a sudden have a rental
Yeah.
or and you don't know, so you're like, ugh. Also the printout. I don't know if you guys have looked at TurboTax. It's like 600 pages that it gives you that you have to sift through to find the tax return. I mean, it's an insane amount
a lot
of
of
just
legalese,
stuff
right?
in there.
We have to put so many disclaimers. And, hey, we're not responsible for this, is what they're saying in those pages, too.
Absolutely true.
Also, the other thing, obviously we don't make mistakes, but people make mistakes. It happens. Like, we're humans and things happen. And every preparer I know, if they mess something up, will fix it for free. And a lot of times we'll pay penalties that come up as a result of it. You know who won't do that? TurboTax, because you did it. So if you mess up, you're on the hook for your own stuff. You have to fix it, or you have to pay someone to fix it. You're on the hook for penalties and interest, whatever else. So it's just, it's totally, like you said, it's a fine program. It's totally cool to use if you want. But I've seen people with one W-2 come out with a weird tax return off of TurboTax.
Wow.
So,
But we love you anyway. We do.
Yeah, Walter, I love you. I appreciate it. That was a good question. The reason you shouldn't use TurboTax is because you have a cousin who does taxes.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely that.
his fee just went up, though.
It did. It did. Uh-oh. Let me see here. So, Miss Hall, I'm going to put this out here. She says that we are making her feel bad for using tax software. She reads the publications, but now she's starting to rethink this.
No. You have to have confidence in what you're doing. I mean, if you need assistance, we're always here, but it's going to cost you something. It's as simple as that. But I think TurboTax actually offers that assistance too. But you have to, but you have to know what to ask, right?
And that's the thing, know what to ask.
Yeah. So, don't feel bad. Do you, child? Do you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to discourage anybody. And that's the thing. Taking the time to read the pubs, that's awesome because they're terrible to read. They're not fun. But it really, my biggest issue, having attempted to do someone else, somebody sent me a TurboTax return, and I went in there and went, let me just do it in mine. Because you can't see the thinking. You can't see the process behind the result. And that's the biggest problem to me, is if it showed you, here's where this went to this, but it doesn't really do that. And ultimately, that's my issue with it. I think, like you said, it's fine. And if you know, as long as you know what it should be, then you can go back and get it there. But if you don't know what the end result should look like, you might end up with all kinds of weird stuff. So that's the biggest thing for me.
And we get this all the time. I did this in TurboTax, and this number doesn't seem right. And you do it, and it's like, you're like, where'd that come from? And that's the issue, is that do you know where everything belongs and where it should end up?
So who would you say TurboTax is best used for? Let me ask the question on the mic. Who would you say TurboTax is best used for? And I'll be honest, I and my wife gets on me about this all the time, right? Somebody will come to me and they'll be like, it's just me and my W-2. And I'll be like, why do you want to pay me when you can go do it yourself on maybe one of them TurboTax, H&R Block, Tax Acts, all of them. Right. My wife well, if they obviously if they came to you, they're not comfortable, so charging the money and go forward with it. But I'm like, you know what?
Give them the option.
Yeah,
I do that also.
Okay, so I'm not the only one.
No, I say you can actually do this yourself.
I'm not the only one.
Right.
I'm just putting that out there.
But I will take your money.
Well, I'll tell you. So this is the other thing. When we were working at Block and we were stuck with the pricing, I had a girl come in. Don't tell the they'll fire me if they hear this.
But
there was a girl who came in. It was just her one W-2, and she was like, you know, trying to do it. And I was like, you know what, sweetheart, honestly, like, just go do the free file online. Yeah. Like, don't pay me for that. Like, if you want help, if you want me to look out, I will do that. Because I couldn't charge her whatever the base fee at Block was. I just couldn't do it.
It was a little over $100 at the time.
Yeah. So I was like, just you know, because you don't need this. But now that I can control my own pricing, I can be like, if I feel for somebody, I'll be like, give me $25, they'll do it.
Right.
And then they get the peace of mind that, you know. Because the other thing is, it's hard to get your TurboTax the prior years if you don't have certain information.
If you don't pay them,
you can't get copies.
You can't get back in, to get your copies.
And you sometimes you have to know like information from the prior year return to be able to get back in.
I'm going to tell you guys, when I started doing taxes, home-based business, doing taxes, my father-in-law, we had Max, and the software was TurboTax. Yeah. We were using TurboTax. And then they stopped writing it for Max. And so we had to convert to PCs, and that's when we, tried Lacert, tried Drake, and that worked for us. But
hashtag Drake.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Drake family now.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but even, to that point with the tax software, I was doing a return today that I knew something was supposed to happen and wasn't happening, and Drake, and I was like, what's going on? Why I got to do this myself? Yeah, okay. It was supposed to do it. It said it did it, but it didn't do it. But I knew that it should have been there, and if I didn't know that, I would have just, made this guy pay tax on $5,000 he shouldn't have paid tax on.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Oh, here's one. I'll put this here. This from Dana. You remember Dana from Live?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, she's there. She said you saved so much money. Let me say. You save so much money in penalties and interest by hiring a great tax preparer. Yes, and there's 3 of them sitting right here, right?
She knows because she worked for the IRS?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. She got the inside scoop, right? Yeah, she knows. Yeah, definitely. Look, it is 7:04. Thank God. Because this has been like, as far as tech goes, it has been frustrating to have 3 mics here, but only 1 working.
But let me tell you, at least it's working.
Yeah, it's working.
And here's the thing. As soon as we get off here,
everything's going to start working. It's going to start clicking, I'm sure. That's how technology does that. But look, we are going to wrap it up. I want to thank Shannon and Kevin for coming on here. I'll make sure that y'all got to give me y'all website information so people can go check you out as well. Okay, maybe not.
Yeah,
you can get to him through me on my website. You come to my website, I'll pass it along to him.
Yeah. Which is ShannonHallTax.com.
Yep.
Yeah, ShannonHallTax.com. That's the angel side of Shannon. The other side was a Syntax, which is we ain't gonna. You have to come back on and talk about it.
We'll do a whole thing about that.
That made me lose my train of thought. Just thinking about the other side of taxes. Shannon will be back to talk about that. But look, let's see if this works. At least that worked, right? Put the end screen up there, telling everybody. Once again, I do apologize for the audio issues tonight. I'll make sure that for next week, I'll be able to go in and figure out what happened and didn't happen with all this brand new equipment, right? Like, you get the brand new equipment that don't work when the old stuff works just fine. But anyway, so yes, I ain't gonna even ask nobody to follow or give a thumbs up on this one. Just know that I love and appreciate you for showing up despite all the technical difficulties, which if you stayed here, I much appreciate it. That gives a testament to those who are entrepreneurs, because we don't panic, we pivot, right? And we went from 3 mics down to 1, and I think it worked out. If not, we'll try this again, and I'll invite the 2 back, and we'll be the 3 amigos on tax. More drink, more laughter, and we'll go from there. So thank you guys for tuning in. You know that I love you, and I don't know, any last words from you guys, and any last tips while I swing the mic? Starting with Kevin. Let's put you over there. Last words for you.
Nah, bye. No, call me. 310-324-9040.
You got to say it slow. It's not corny.
3-1. Oh, it's not.
Alarm.
I thought it was Sunday. Call me. Thomas & Thomas Tax Service. 310-324-9040.
Soon to be located in beautiful Long Beach, California.
I just want to make sure you understood that we're live, right? So you gave your number like to a bunch of people.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Don't matter? Okay. Because then this will probably be posted on YouTube and other people will watch it later. Okay. And you gave your number.
Are we going to get hate mail? Are we going to hate calls?
I don't know. I'm always curious about giving
Is
that
TurboTax
information.
going to call us?
They might, like, hey, we saw that video. Yeah.
Well, I'm not afraid.
Oh, man. Definitely. So
And that was the last time we saw Kevin.
Yes, that was the last time we will see. I'm trying to see what else I got. Oh man, Mr. Super Chat gave us a digital. I gave us a super chat. I don't know if y'all what super chat is, like when people actually give money live during the show. So he gave us a super chat. So let me clap my hands for that one. We'll do that. I don't know. Was that loud enough? Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna end this because I think I am embarrassing myself enough, right? With all this bad tech and everything else. But again, shout out to Shannon and Kevin for joining me, and yeah. So we'll try this again. We'll definitely talk once I go through.